Hi, my name is Benjamin Powell and I serve as the coordinator of fraternity and sorority life here at the University of North Georgia. Today you're going to go through a program called Love Labyrinth that was developed by One Love. This program is designed to help you recognize and understand some of the signs of relationship violence and abuse. This program will serve as one of your components for New Member 101 training. Before we proceed, I want to offer a trigger warning. This program deals heavily in relationship abuse and discusses sexual assault. In the next slide, you'll watch a brief video that will show signs of emotional abuse. Be prepared as you go forward throughout this program.
One more.
I'll call you tomorrow. I'm gonna be home a little late tonight.
Okay. How late?
12, maybe 1.
12. Okay. Alright, I guess just call me when you get home.
Okay.
Someone's trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Hey, Allie.
Oh, hey, Seb. What are you doing?
Just eating your chips. Tried calling you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got your text.
Where was your phone?
It was in my bag.
Didn't you hear it?
Well, I just got the text when I walked in.
It can't be that hard to pick up your phone, Allie.
I did let you know.
Didn't let me know.
I told you. I told you I was gonna be out with Katie.
Was it just Katie? You're just having too much of a good time with Katie? I'm worried about where you are, and all you reply back is, I'm busy.
I should have picked it up.
It's your
I'm sorry.
phone! You always have your phone! Know what I mean? Yeah? Why didn't you look in your bag?
Seb, I told you.
Didn't you hear it buzzing in your bag? I don't understand.
Seb, you're not listening. I didn't have my phone. It was in my bag.
What does that matter? If it was in your bag?
Seb, I told you I didn't hear it.
How did you not hear your phone, Allie?
I already answered that question.
You know how easy it is to pick up... I just want to apologize for tonight. I just don't get it. Why couldn't you just pick up your phone?
I told you. You're overreacting, Seb.
Allie, I'm not overreacting, okay?
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
It is a big deal. That's the problem. It doesn't make sense! Allie, that doesn't make sense!
I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again. I'm so sorry. Hey. Tried calling you.
Now that we've watched the video, let's talk about what was actually on display. So the first thing we notice is manipulation. It's important to note that this isn't an issue of communication. It's an issue where Seb is constantly trying to manipulate Allie by lashing out. The second thing we notice is the level of intensity. It's very natural to have a level of curiosity about where your partner is or what they're doing, but we have to understand that we aren't owed an answer at every second of the day, nor should we expect one. And so it's not okay for us to try to push their boundaries of comfortable communication. And the third thing is the jealousy. Seb is extremely mistrusting of Allie, and that manifests in his attempts to control her. If you feel that you are unable to trust your partner or get angry when they do things like engage with other people on social media, then it's best to look at the relationship and figure out, is it a good fit, and maybe it's just better to leave it behind. So what do we think Allie is thinking and feeling when she receives all these texts from Seb immediately after leaving him? She probably feels overwhelmed. Being inundated with messages directly after explaining what she's doing is a lot, and it probably makes her feel defensive as well. This leads us into a point of a tactic that's being employed here by Seb, which is gaslighting. And as you can see, gaslighting is a manipulation tactic that abusers use to make people doubt themselves and their memories of a situation. It's typically done to gain power over the other person and to make them doubt their reactions and their experiences so that they won't fight back or they won't question it. And this brings us to the point that there has to be healthy boundaries in a relationship. And those need to be set based on respect and comfortability of both parties. One party can't just continuously railroad their way through the other one, or else it's a very unhealthy dynamic where one of them is truly unhappy. While it might seem obvious, we need to talk about how violence is actually used to assert power and control over another person. So the threat of physical violence is a very clear indication that one person is trying to intimidate the other. This level of volatility will often cause someone to do whatever it takes to avoid that kind of violent reaction from their partner. This might be not doing things that they love, and a lot of times it also means cutting other people out of their lives. And isolating your partner is a very, very problematic thing. If you can get them away from other people, then it's a sign that you can control them more. Trying to make that person completely dependent on you and not have any external connections is a very abusive behavior that leads to them really being dependent upon you, and being dependent upon your abuser really empowers the abuser to continue hurting you. A question that's often asked is, why do people who are in abusive relationships choose to stay in those relationships? There's a lot of different answers that could be had, and none of them are the exactly right answer. It's different for every person. But some of the common things you might hear is that they believe they're still good in that person, and that if they stick around, they can help them be a better person. It also might be fear. They're worried what could happen if they leave that person, and they could potentially provoke a violent reaction. Sometimes it's that they don't understand that this person is an abusive person because of something called the cycle of abuse. The cycle of abuse is a situation where an abuser will build up to an abusive behavior, perform an abusive action, and then immediately follow that up with apologies and promises that it will be different, only to have things go back and repeat themselves with escalation, action, apologies, escalation, action, apologies. And with this, it can often feel like the abuser's fault if they leave, because that person has said, I promise it'll be different, why are you leaving me now? And this is just another tactic that abusers use in problematic relationships. We see this in the video when Seb is blaming Allie for his actions, saying, well, if you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done this, and if you would change the way you act, then I wouldn't have to react this way. It's a way of victim blaming. It's a way of blaming the abused for their abuse. This takes power away from the person being abused and relinquishes all blame from the person that's doing the abuse. This is hugely problematic, and it's important that when people are going through the cycle of abuse, they realize that these aren't one-off instances, that this is a deeply ingrained pattern of behavior in someone. There's a few things Seb could have done to work on himself and make this relationship with Allie healthier. Number one is he could have sought help. After seeing how his actions affected Allie, how it scared her, and how destructive it was, he could have sought help to deal with his issues. The second thing he could have done is tried to figure out why he distrusted her so much. If there's a reason, then that reason should be talked about and communicated about in a healthy way. And really, at that point, it's a good idea to determine if the relationship is a good fit. But if there's not a reason to distrust her the way that he does, then that points to a deeper issue on his end that he needs to work through. When he's not taking responsibility for his actions, he's just furthering his own problematic behaviors. as we reflect upon this video, there's some healthy relationship behaviors that are pretty obviously missing. The first is trust. In a healthy relationship, there's a lot of trust between partners. It needs to be holistic, it needs to be complete, it needs to be mutual. If you have a reason to distrust your partner, that needs to be talked about. You need to have a dialogue about it. You need to listen. You don't need to just have arguments, and you really don't need to just bottle it up, because it will eventually come out in a really unfortunate way for everyone involved. The other thing that we don't see is Seb owning up to his behaviors. Realizing your role in a relationship and your role in a relationship's problems is really important, and owning up to what you're doing is vital. No one in a relationship is blameless, and we need to be aware of that. So it's important that every so often we look in a mirror and say, okay, what can I be doing better? And despite all of this, what we see in the video is Seb not only refusing to take responsibility for his behaviors, but just continuously blaming Allie for every issue that they have, not trusting her, not communicating what's really going on. After watching this, some of you might be reflecting on some of your experiences that either you've had in a relationship or you've seen friends have in a relationship, and realizing that you've noticed some of these behaviors before. And at this point, you might be wondering, what can you do if you see this behavior? And so there's a few things to keep in mind. In situations where things seem to be abusive or destructive or harmful to other people, it's not only okay to confront someone, but it's encouraged. You need to be asking people for clarification and confronting them when they're behaving in that sort of way. Not confronting people who are acting in an abusive manner empowers them to continue doing so. It makes them feel as though their actions are okay or justified or all right to continue, and that's obviously a problem. An important thing to remember when you're having these conversations is to not call out a person as much as you call out a behavior. If you call out a person specifically, they can feel very defensive and cut themselves off from the conversation, and therefore cut themselves off from gaining anything from talking about it. Some people genuinely just might need to be told, hey, what you're doing is abusive, and so it's important that we tell them the behavior is wrong, not, hey, you're an awful person. Some of you might have friends that are going through a situation like this right now, and you're trying to figure out how you can open up this dialogue. Again, you need to be calling out behavior, not people. Your friend may not realize that their partner is abusive, or they may have a really hard time coming to terms with that, and so if you label their partner as an abuser, they may shut you out and just say, you don't understand who they are, you don't understand what they've been through, and try to make excuses for them. So it's important to say, hey, I've noticed that they talk to you in this way, or they act this way around you, and I think that's a problem, and they might then be more receptive to what you have to say. The other thing to remember is that you have to be patient. Partners won't always realize that the behaviors they're being subjected to are a problem right away. This is going to have to be an ongoing process of them coming to grips with that. So just remember to be patient with your friend and be understanding. We can't force them to get to a place where they're ready to confront this behavior overnight. So let's briefly review what some of the signs of a healthy relationship are. So equality. You and your partner have the same say and put equal effort into a relationship. Loyalty. When your partner is reliable and you know that they have your back and you trust them. Honesty. Being truthful and open with your partner and not fearing any recompense from that. Taking responsibility. You and your partner are both responsible for your own actions and words, and you own that. Independence. You have space and freedom for each other. You are not solely dependent on one another. You have your own lives outside of the relationship. A comfortable pace. You and your partner allow the relationship to happen naturally. You don't try to force it. You don't try to move things up quickly just for the sake of doing so. Compassion. You and your partner feel a sense of care and concern for one another, and you know that you'll be there to support each other. Respect. If respect is present in your relationship, your partner will value your beliefs, opinions, and who you are as a person. Trust, which we've talked about a lot. Believing your partner won't do anything to hurt you or ruin your relationship or sabotage you for any reason. And finally, communication. If you can talk to your partner about anything, good or bad, These are all signs of a healthy relationship. These are all signs that you and your partner are on the same wavelength and that you care about each other in a very real way. Now let's review some of the signs of an unhealthy relationship that maybe you've seen or that you saw in the video. So intensity, having an extreme feeling or over-the-top behaviors that don't really match the severity of a situation. Jealousy, it's something that everyone experiences, but when it's taken over the top, it can lead to people lashing out. It can lead to them not listening to reason and becoming paranoid. Manipulation is when your partner tries to influence you, your decisions, your actions, or your emotions to suit their own gain. Isolation is them trying to keep you away from your friends, family, and other people so that they become the person you're most reliant on. Sabotage is personally ruining your reputation, achievement, or successes so that you feel low. Belittling is making you feel bad about yourself, trying to infer that you don't deserve love or affection or any of the things that you do deserve. Guilting is making you feel guilty or responsible for your partner's actions. This goes back into victim blaming, which we talked about earlier, in which the abuser will make the abused feel as though their abuse is their fault. Volatility is unpredictable overreactions that make you feel like you need to walk on eggshells or that you might even be in danger. Deflecting responsibility is making excuses for their behaviors and never being willing to own up to the fact that they've made mistakes. And betrayal is when your partner acts differently with you versus how they act when you're not around. So this might be lying and how they tell stories about you or how they paint situations. When you're planning on leaving a harmful relationship, it's important to think through what that looks like. Part of doing this is developing a safety plan, which is literally just a thought-out plan that you can utilize to help separate you from your abuser. This can include things like knowing who you can get involved to help keep you safe if this is friends and family, knowing where you can go if you don't feel safe at home, having the numbers for public safety, knowing what agencies in your area can help you go through and deal with this situation. The time period right after a breakup is the most dangerous because those are the times an abuser is the most likely to have a volatile outbreak. So it's important to know who's on your side, who can help you, and what you need to do to keep yourself safe. Some things to consider when you're making your safety plan are, do you have the numbers for campus security or public safety officials? Do you know the safest route in and out of your home? Do you know where you can stay if your home isn't safe? Who can you tell about the situation to help you stay safe? Can you get someone to accompany you to class, work, or home if you feel unsafe doing so on your own? Can you determine who can help you get a restraining order if you need one? Learning your campus's Title IX policies or contacting the Title IX office to help you understand what the process looks like of getting help. Do you need to determine a means of self-defense, whether that's getting pepper spray or taking a class on self-defense or anything of that nature? And make sure you've stopped sharing your location with them on your phone and they don't have access to your social media or anything like that. So changing all your passwords in case they try to use that to find you. And finally, to review, here are a few tips for if you have a friend who you think might be in an abusive relationship. If you're going to bring it up, start the conversation on a positive note and do it very calmly as best you can. Be supportive. Again, this is going to take time. Focus on the unhealthy behaviors, not on the person doing the unhealthy behaviors, so that they don't shut you down and they don't get defensive. Keep the conversation friendly, not preachy. Don't place the blame on your friends. This should go without saying, but never blame your friend who's being abused for their abuse. Allow your friends to make your own decisions. Essentially, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, so you have to be there to support them even if they're not doing the things that you would hope they would. Offer options to your friend. Don't just tell them, this is what you need to do. You need to tell them, these are some things that you can do. And expect more conversations in the future. I'll say it one more time. This takes time to get out of this cycle. It takes time to understand the situation. And so we need to understand that once we start trying to help a friend, we're in it for the long haul. On screen, you'll see some resources that either you or someone you may know can utilize if they're dealing with an abusive relationship. These range from national resources to local ones to ones specific to the university. My hope is that you never have to use any of the information that you learned here today, but I do hope that you feel more prepared to deal with abusive relationships in the future. Remember that abuse is never the fault of the abuser, and that it absolutely should be a priority to confront people who are displaying abusive behaviors towards their partners or anyone else. With that, the Healthy Relationships Education portion of New Member 101 is completed.